It all began on a Tuesday evening, which in hindsight should have been my initial red flag. Truly good things never seem to occur on a Tuesday. I was stretched out on our large bed when I heard the shower start up for the second time that day. This was unusual for Marissa, who was never particularly fussy about being perfectly clean. She was more of a shower every other day person, unless she had specific plans. So, 2 showers in a single day definitely caught my attention. The water was still running when I noticed her handbag on the chair by the dresser, looking as though it had exploded. The zipper was gaping open, and half of its contents were scattered across the floor: lip gloss, receipts, hair ties, and what appeared to be half the inventory of a travel-sized product aisle were strewn over the wooden boards. I'm not the sort of man who rifles through his wife's purse. That's a marital offense on par with leaving the toilet seat up or forgetting an anniversary, but the disarray bothered me. I decided to be the considerate husband and tidy it up for her before she emerged, and decided to do a stressed-out midnight cleaning, as she sometimes did when work was difficult. So there I was, playing the good guy, gathering up tampons and mints, and questioning why any woman would need 17 lipsticks that were essentially identical. That's when my fingers brushed against something that felt out of place among the usual purse clutter. It was small, cool, and made of smooth, expensive-feeling metal with a sharp, modern design. I pulled it out and held it up to the lamplight. It was a silver tube, about 4 inches long, with a sleek, minimalist aesthetic, like something Apple would design if they sold personal lubricant. The body was covered in Japanese text, black print against the silver. It looked costly, the kind of item you don't just pick up at a pharmacy while buying milk. My first assumption was that it was medical. Perhaps she was dealing with a health issue she was too uncomfortable to discuss. Women's health can be complex, and Marissa hated talking about things that made her feel vulnerable. But then I reasoned, if it were medical, why was it Japanese? And why had she kept it from me? Curiosity won. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, and used it to scan the text. Google Translate did the work while I sat there at 11:30 p.m., my marriage suddenly feeling like a fragile object. The screen lit up with the translation, and I swear I felt the blood in my veins turn to ice. Premium men's personal lubricant, long-lasting formula. Men's lubricant, not women's, not for couples, men's. And it wasn't new. The tube was about half empty, bearing that worn look from regular use. I turned it over in my hands, my mind struggling to process what my gut was already screaming at me. My wife had never purchased anything like this for us. We barely used lube, and when we did, it was the inexpensive, generic kind from the pharmacy. This looked like it cost more than our weekly grocery bill, and it clearly wasn't intended for our relationship. I kept staring at the tube until my gaze drifted to her tablet on the desk. The screen was still on, glowing. She had left it open after working on a presentation earlier. The home screen displayed her neatly organized app folders with their cute labels: fun stuff, work tools, and groceries. Wait, groceries? I had never once known Marissa to use a grocery app. This was the woman who made me drive to 3 different stores just to find the correct brand of pasta sauce. And now she had a grocery folder on her tablet? It was like discovering your vegan friend had a hidden stash of beef patties in the freezer. My hands were trembling as I tapped the folder. Inside was only one application I didn't recognize, some kind of chat platform with a plain, uninteresting icon. My thumb hovered over it for what felt like an eternity, or perhaps only 30 seconds. This was the moment. I was either being paranoid, or my entire life was about to shatter. I opened it. The chat loaded, and right at the top was a conversation thread with a contact named Leo. The profile picture was just a silhouette. But the words, oh God, the words. I can't wait to see you Thursday. Got us the usual room at the Marriott. Bring that stuff I like. The silver one. Makes it so much better. Going to do things to you your husband never could. I scrolled up. My vision blurred as weeks of messages filled the screen. Hotel rooms described in vivid detail, photos I desperately wished I could unsee, mentions of that same silver tube I was clutching in my sweaty palm. The dates struck me like physical blows. Every late night at the office, every girls' night out, every "I'm too tired tonight, honey." All of it was a lie. The shower was still running. I could hear Marissa humming a pop tune, sounding utterly carefree, as if she hadn't just ignited our marriage with a half-empty tube of Japanese lubricant and a secret chat app hidden inside a fake grocery folder. I looked from the tube to the messages and back again. My hands suddenly stopped shaking. They became steady, almost calm. I walked to the kitchen, opened the junk drawer, and took out the heavy-duty superglue I'd bought last month for a household repair. If Marissa wanted to play games with fancy imported lube, then fine. I would give her an experience she would never be able to forget. The shower finally shut off. I had just completed my little arts and crafts project in the kitchen when I heard the bathroom door open. The sound of her bare feet padding across the hardwood floors made my heart race, though not in the romantic way it used to. This was more like the frantic pounding of someone watching their life collapse in real time. Marissa emerged from the bathroom looking like she was in a shampoo commercial, wrapped in the soft white towel I'd gifted her for Christmas 2 years earlier. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice dripping with that artificially sweet tone women use when they're concealing something. "You look tired." She moved toward the kitchen and returned with a tall glass of milk, offering it like a peace offering. "Here, drink this," she said, perching on the edge of the bed. "It'll help you sleep. Don't you have that early meeting tomorrow?" And there it was, the early meeting, the one I'd only mentioned casually at dinner. The one she had filed away in her deceitful little mind as the perfect cover for another secret rendezvous, because nothing says loyal wife like drugging your husband so you can slip away for a night with someone else. I took the glass, studying her face in the dim light. She looked so genuinely caring, so concerned about me getting my rest. "Thanks, honey," I said, taking a small sip. I pretended to drink about half before setting it on the nightstand with a smile. "You're the best. I love you." The words felt like acid in my mouth, but her face lit up as if I'd spoken true words of love. That was the most devastating part, not just the cheating, but her ability to look me in the eye with such convincing warmth while planning to run off to a hotel with a man named Leo. The next hour was likely the longest 60 minutes of my life. I lay there listening to her breathing, waiting for it to settle into the deep, even rhythm that meant she believed I was unconscious. Every few minutes, I'd let out a soft snore or shift position, fully committing to the performance of a heavily sedated husband. She was skilled, I'll give her that. She waited a full hour before making her move, probably ensuring whatever she had slipped me had taken full effect. I felt the mattress shift as she cautiously climbed out of bed, moving with the stealth of someone who had performed this routine before. At precisely 12:45 a.m., I heard the faint click of our front door opening, followed by the muted sound of voices in the hallway outside our apartment. My heart was hammering so loudly, I was certain the neighbors could hear it. I gave her exactly 20 seconds, long enough for her to think she was in the clear, but not long enough for them to vanish completely. Then I slipped out of bed, grabbed my robe, and crept toward the door, like a suburban ninja. The hallway was dim, but I could see them at the far end near the elevator. Marissa was pressed against the wall, and a tall man had his hands on either side of her face, kissing her as if she were the last woman on earth. Even from a distance, I could see he was everything I was not. Tall, muscular, probably a decade younger. So, this was Leo. This was the man for whom my wife was willing to discard 15 years of marriage. They were heading up to the 4th floor. I followed, pressing myself against the wall outside apartment 4C, which was directly above our spare bedroom. How was that for cosmic irony? The man my wife was cheating with lived right above us. I could hear their voices through the flimsy door. "I can't believe you live right above him," Marissa was saying, her voice giddy with excitement. "Makes it more fun, doesn't it?" "God, yes," Leo replied. "Did you bring what I asked for?" "Of course. I brought what you like. The good stuff. My specially modified tube of Japanese lubricant, now featuring an industrial-strength adhesive that could probably bond a space shuttle's heat shield." I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing aloud. For about 30 seconds, there was nothing but the sounds you would expect from two people who believed they were about to have the night of their lives. Then, everything shifted. "What the—" Leo's voice, sharp and confused. "Wait, something's wrong," Marissa said, and I could hear the first thread of panic in her tone. "What did you do? What the hell did you put on me? I don't understand." "It's the same stuff as always. The silver tube, the Japanese brand you like. Something's wrong with it. We can't, oh God, we're stuck. And there it was, the moment I had been waiting for. The sweet sound of two cheaters realizing their night of passion had just turned into a medical crisis. They tried everything. Water from the kitchen sink, soap from the bathroom, even what sounded like cooking oil. Nothing worked. Now we need to call someone, Leo said, his voice tight with a mixture of pain and humiliation. After about 40 minutes of increasingly frantic attempts to separate, they finally admitted defeat. I heard Leo make the call. Yes, we need an ambulance. It's hard to explain. We're kind of stuck together. I decided that was my cue to exit. Phase 1 was complete. The next morning, Marissa shuffled through our front door around 10:30 a.m., looking as if she'd been put through a wood chipper. Her hair was a wreck, her makeup was gone, and she moved as if every step caused her agony. Her dress from the previous night was wrinkled and stained with what looked like hospital-grade antiseptic. "Morning, honey," I said, not looking up from my tablet. "How was your night?" "You came in pretty late." She froze in the doorway like a deer caught in headlights. "There was an emergency at work, a client crisis. I had to stay late to handle it." "That sucks," I said, finally looking up with my best concerned husband expression. "You look exhausted. And are you walking funny? Did you hurt yourself?" "I fell at the office, down some stairs. Twisted my back. I went to urgent care. They said it was just a strain. Gave me some medication for the pain." She was limping toward the bedroom when there was another knock at the door. Sure enough, it was Leo, looking like he'd gone 12 rounds with a heavyweight boxer who specialized in low blows. His jeans were unbuttoned at the top, hanging loosely around his waist as if he couldn't tolerate anything touching his skin. Hi," he said, his voice strained. "Is Marissa here? We need to talk about what happened last night." "Sure, come on in," I said, stepping aside with a friendly smile. Marissa just got back from work. She had some kind of emergency that kept her out all night. They were both speaking in code, trying to discuss their medical predicament without saying anything that would reveal the truth to me. I suggested they sit down, since they both appeared to be in pain. The look they exchanged was pure terror. Sitting was clearly not an option. That afternoon, I prepared phase 2. I spent time playing the devoted husband while Marissa milked her fictional work injury for all it was worth. Around 4 p.m., she complained about a sensitive stomach, saying she needed something light to eat. It was the perfect opportunity. I prepared what I like to call a symphony of spice. Lamb skewers marinated in a blend so hot it would make a jalapeno seek a restraining order. Ghost pepper powder, Carolina Reaper flakes, habanero sauce, and enough cayenne to strip paint. Then, garlic prawns swimming in enough garlic to repel every vampire in a 5-state radius. But the pièce de resistance was the chili crab from that Singaporean place downtown that makes you sign a waiver before they'll serve you their spiciest dish. This wasn't merely food, it was a weaponized dining experience designed to torture someone with already compromised internal geography. She took her first bite of the lamb, and for a split second, her face showed pure appreciation. Then the heat detonated, but it was the chili crab that truly sealed her fate. She took one bite, and I watched her entire body tense as if she'd been tasered. Her face flushed red, then turned pale, then shifted to a fascinating shade of green I'd never seen on a human before. "Maybe I should lie down," she said weakly. "I think the medication is interacting with the food." But I wasn't finished yet. Hidden in our medicine cabinet was a tube of recovery ointment she would likely need over the next few days. I had emptied it and refilled it with capsaicin cream, the substance used to treat arthritis pain, the same active ingredient that makes pepper spray so effective. It looked identical to the original ointment, but when applied to tender areas, it would transform her recovery process into a fresh new level of agony. The next morning at 6 a.m. came the scream. Not just any scream, but a primal, gut-wrenching shriek that comes from someone who has just discovered their healing ointment has been replaced with liquid fire. "Something's wrong with the medicine," she gasped between what sounded like hyperventilating breaths. "It's burning." "Oh God, it's burning." We rushed back to the hospital, the very same one she'd been discharged from less than 12 hours earlier. Dr. Martinez, who who had overseen the separation procedure, looked like he was experiencing the strangest week of his medical career. "This level of inflammation is severe," he stated after examining her. "The tissue damage from yesterday's procedure, combined with what appears to be a chemical burn, has created a potentially serious situation. Given the extent of the damage and the significant risk of infection, I'm recommending surgical intervention. We need to remove the affected tissue before necrosis sets in." Necrosis. That meant tissue death, permanent damage, consequences that don't simply heal with time and good intentions. The surgery took 3 hours. When Dr. Martinez emerged, his expression was grave. "We were able to remove all the damaged tissue," he said, "but the extent of the excision was more significant than we initially anticipated. There will be permanent functional changes." While she was recovering, I spent the morning at my lawyer's office, finalizing documents prepared with meticulous attention to detail. Every clause was designed to ensure Marissa would walk away from our marriage with exactly what she deserved. Nothing. Well, almost nothing. She could keep the medical bills. I walked into her hospital room, holding a manila folder. "Divorce papers," I said, placing them on the rolling table. "It's all pretty straightforward. You keep nothing. I get the house, the cars, the savings, the investments. Our son stays with me full time." "I don't understand." "Why? Why now? I'm in the hospital. I just had surgery. You see, I know about Leo. I know about the affair. I know about the hotel rooms, the messages, the silver tube of Japanese lubricant you've been using to enhance your extracurricular activities. I know you've been sedating me so you could sneak out. I know about the encrypted messaging app hidden in your grocery folder." Each revelation struck her like a physical blow. I could actually see her deflating, as if the air was being slowly let out of her entire being. She tried to refuse, tearing the papers in half. "I'm not signing anything." I smiled and pulled another set from my briefcase. "If you won't sign the generous settlement I'm offering, we go to court. And in court, all of this becomes public record. The affair, the circumstances of your medical emergency, the pill use, everything." But instead of accepting defeat, she did something I didn't anticipate. She started to laugh. It wasn't a happy sound, but a broken, hysterical laughter that people make when their sanity finally snaps. "And now you think you've won," she gasped between breaths. "You think you're so smart, so clever, but you have no idea what you've done. Leo isn't going anywhere, and there are others too. Do you really think he was the first? Do you really believe this was some kind of isolated incident?" That was when I discovered the network. Hidden in her tablet's browsing history, I found evidence of something that made the affair with Leo look amateurish. There was an entire network, a private group that operated through encrypted apps and exclusive websites catering to married individuals seeking discreet encounters. Marissa had been a premium member for over 3 years. I printed out every piece of evidence and went straight to the police station. The network was involved in activities that crossed legal boundaries: tax evasion, prostitution, embezzlement using company credit cards. Within a week, the investigation had expanded to include the FBI. Assets were frozen. Arrests were made. Meanwhile, a video of their ambulance ride, taken by a neighbor, went viral. "When cheating goes horribly wrong," hit 500,000 views in 12 hours. Someone recognized Leo as a fitness influencer who marketed himself as a relationship coach. His gym fired him before the week was over. Marissa's identity spread like wildfire through our social circles. Her friends began to distance themselves one by one. The book club suddenly had scheduling conflicts. Even the grocery store cashiers started giving her looks that could freeze hell over. 3 weeks later, Leo made the mistake of coming back, demanding $20,000 for his medical bills and lost income. Their argument quickly escalated from the front yard into our house. I could hear them moving around upstairs, shouting, then the sound of furniture being thrown. When Leo shoved Marissa down our concrete front steps, the officers who had responded to my domestic disturbance call decided they had seen enough. Both were arrested, with additional charges added to the existing fraud investigation. The custody hearing was a mere formality when one parent is in county lockup and the other possesses documented proof of systematic fraud and infidelity. I received a text from Detective Morrison. "Case closed. Both defendants pled guilty. Marissa got 18 months, Leo got 2 years. I deleted the message and poured myself another drink. Sometimes justice isn't blind. Sometimes it just needs a little assistance to see things clearly.